In this lesson, we will beat up the blade a little bit. So right now it's kind of a clean looking blade, and we want this to be a little bit more dirty, a little bit more beat up. So one of the things that we can do is to really kind of beat up the edges. We've got a lot of sort of clean edges here, and so I'm just going to go ahead and select the move brush here, and I want to just start to break this up a bit. And you can play with the different draw sizes, but just coming in from the side and just kind of creating these kind of divots in here and just kind of breaking up the shape so we don't get that sort of clean, we don't get as clean of a line, especially on the kind of the sharp edges here. So we can kind of pull that in. You can see where that kind of creates a little bit more of a dangerous look, or a just kind of beat up a little bit more. Okay, so it's not so clean. Just kind of pull that out. And do the same thing maybe down here a little bit. And then on the surface of our sword, okay, we can start to beat that up. I actually want to take some notches out of the back first. So to do that, we're going to use the clipping brushes. And so I'm going to use a clip curve. Say OK to that. It's going to add that to our Control-Shift key combination. So holding down Control and Shift, I'm going to drag this up. I'm going to hit Alt to create a curve. Pull this back. Okay, and then holding down Alt, we'll just remove that. I'm going to try that again and make a little bit of a curve that's not quite so severe. Okay, we can hold down Spacebar to kind of move it around. Holding down Alt to take out a notch. We'll do the same thing here. Okay, and maybe one more. And we're not removing any geometry. We're just pushing that geometry back into the surface based on this particular curve. Let me try that again. And holding down Alt can kind of cut that out. So you can create some notches there in the back if you want to. If you want to take them down a little bit further, you can do that as well. I want to now beat up the surface. So there are a number of ways we can do this. I'm going to just select the mallet to get kind of a hammered look, and I'm going to change the alpha to this alpha 15, which is not just the circle, but it has that sort of variation in it. Let's get a large draw size. Okay, and let's also take our Z intensity down to 1 or 2. Okay, just making sure we've got our symmetry on, and I'm just going to tap on our model and just start to beat it up a little bit. Okay, and you can play with different sized strokes here, but just kind of beating that up a little with that alpha, and you can play with some different alphas if you want to. But I just want to start to add a little bit of that variation in there. Okay, we can come in here now, and if we want to just grab kind of a circle alpha, you can see how that adds kind of a perfect circle. So it may not be something that you want to add. We can play with our focal shift here to make that a little bit more soft, and just kind of come in and real softly just beat this sword up a little bit. Can come in here and just smooth out some of these areas so you don't get an exact pattern there, but just kind of a variation here, and again just kind of beating that up. So you can see it's starting to get a little bit more beat up there. Okay, if you want to add some smaller variations in some places, just kind of get a smaller brush size here, and if you want to change your focal shift to make it a little bit smoother, you can. Alright, another thing that we can do is to go into our surface, under our tool palette, go to surface and add some noise to it. And if you want to add some high frequency noise, then you can leave the scale. Otherwise you can increase the scale. We can take our strength way down, and so you can kind of see the difference there. If you want to get something that's a little bit smaller with more strength to it, get something like that. Okay, we don't really want a lot of noise in here, but we can just kind of use it to augment what we have. So you can see now if we add something like this, it's starting to look more like stone. So we don't really want to add that much. Okay. So you can just play around with the settings that you've got there. And if you want to add noise, you can. I think I'm actually going to wait on that until we go in and start to do our painting. Okay, I don't want to add too much noise on there. Okay, especially strength-wise, I really want to dial that down to kind of almost nothing. But if you want to add that, you just turn that on, and then if you want to apply it to actually into your sculpt, and just go apply to mesh, and that'll be baked into your sculpt there. Okay, so it's starting to look a little bit more realistic here. So the next thing that we want to do is to go ahead and add some color to our blade. So we will look at painting the blade in the next lesson.